Welcome to Lesson 1-6, a problem-solving plan using models. Models is a good way to solve word problems. Some people enjoy it better than other methods that they've learned. So I just want to introduce it to you guys, have you guys just kind of get your toes wet a little bit, and if you like it, by all means, you can use this throughout the rest of the course. Okay, first we're going to do a little flashback, 1995. So think about Wayne's World. We're flashbacking here. All right, I am in 11th grade. I worked at what is now Hardig Drug uptown. At the time, it was Fenn's Drugstore. I drove a 1987 S10 pickup truck. A few of the top bands at the time were Better Than Ezra, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Led Zeppelin, Weezer, and Green Day. And of course, the fashions that roamed the hallway at Provincetown High School were flannel shorts and grubby concert t-shirts, and some people I think even had tried to have dreadlock hair, even though maybe it looked like they just didn't comb it for a while, and ripped up pants. Of course, you couldn't have nice jeans on. That wasn't cool in the grunge era. So here we go. Another thing we did in 1995 is we went to the music store. Okay, we went to the music store in the mall. The CDs were on sale for $6 a piece, and the total bill was $77.76. which included $5.76 of sales tax. How many CDs did we buy? Now, the reason we had to have a flashback is because I don't really think I've heard any of my students recently in 2011 talk about going to the mall to buy CDs on sale, right? Well, and there's a lot of examples in your book as you're reading through the text that give you examples based on CDs, or they talk about whether you're going to buy a stereo with or without a CD player. So just when you run into those, flashback a little bit to the mid-90s when we did those types of crazy things, okay? All right, so we said that today we're going to be using modeling, okay? So we need to say, what is modeling, okay? Modeling is writing in algebraic expressions. They can be equations, they can be inequalities that represent real-life situations, okay? It has 3 steps, and these 3 steps I expect you guys to know. First, you're going to write a verbal model, then you're going to assign labels, then from there, you're going to write an algebraic model, okay? The most important step, I feel, is the verbal model, because that kind of drives everything else down the line, okay? So if you have a mistake here in your verbal model, that's going to flow down to your labels and your algebraic model. So if you're doing modeling, spend the most time writing your verbal model and make sure that's right before you worry about any of the other stuff. Okay, so let's talk about what that means to have a verbal model. What you'll do is you'll ask yourself what you need to know to solve the problem. Then write a model that will give you what you need to know. So you're just going to analyze the problem, look at what you have, look at what you need, and figure out what kind of steps you need to take. After you have that figured out, you're going to assign labels to each part. So if you have, for your verbal model, you have 2 things being multiplied, well, each one of those items is going to need a label. Okay? After you have your labels figured out and put on your verbal model, from there, you can build an algebraic model. Okay? You see how it's important that your verbal model is accurate? Because it's all flowing down. After you build your algebraic model, you can solve it and answer the original equation. Then I want you to check to make sure your answer is reasonable. So I want you to read back through the problem and say, does this make sense? And make sure that your answer is labeled correctly, so that way it's a reasonable answer. And you have, if you went clothes shopping, your answer is 3 shirts, or, make sure you answer the question that was at hand, okay? All right, now that we know a little bit more about this modeling business, let's go back and look at my friends and I going to buy some CDs. Okay, we said they were $6 a piece. We know what the total bill is. We know how much the sales tax is, but how many CDs did we buy? Okay, the first step, verbal model. Well, I would take the number of CDs times the price. That's going to be equal to the amount of the bill minus the tax. You have to take the tax out of there because All we want to know is how much money was spent on CDs. So your number of CDs times your price per CDs, and that's going to equal your total minus the tax. Okay, take that tax out. Now that I know what I'll have, I'm going to label it. So what does that mean? That means that my number of CDs, do I know? No, right here it says, how many CDs did you buy? So I don't know the number. That becomes a variable. Okay, then next it says price per CD. It says is $6. Yep, it says right here, $6 a piece. So I fill that in for that label. Then it says amount of bill, $77.76. Straight up from the problem is where I got that. And my tax was $5.76. That was in the problem as well. So what I do is I take each one of these pieces of the verbal model, I rewrite them down here, and then I assign them. I say, do I know this? Do I not know it? If I don't know it, I give it a variable. If I know it, I fill it in. Okay, now the next big step we take is we build an algebraic model from this. So what we do is we take, I have the number of CDs here. Then if we look down here, it says number of CDs equals X. So I take X and I fill it in for number of CDs. So right here I have X. Okay, then it's multiplied by price per CD. Well, what was price per CD? When I look at my labels, it's $6. So down here in my algebraic model, I'm going to take X times 6. Good. Then we're on the equal sign. It says amount of bill. What is my amount of bill? Well, it's $77.76. So that goes here. And then from that we subtract the tax. So the tax is $5.76. So all you're doing is you're taking your verbal model, you're figuring out how to label it, and then you rewrite it as an algebraic model. Everything should just flow. Then the next step is to solve. So I subtract these two, and I'm going to say, well, let's see, I have 6x equals 77 minus 576 would be $72. Then I divide by 6, so what does that give me? And then you'd say, oh, that gives me 12. 12 CDs were purchased. Now the next thing you want to do, the last step, is check to make sure your answer is reasonable. If CDs are $6 a piece and I bought 12 of them, does a total of about $78 sound right? Yeah, I think so. If I were to come up with an answer like 120, well, that's obviously not reasonable. If you have 120 CDs, you know your total would be well over, $600. So you want to make sure that your answer is reasonable. Read back through the problem and make sure it makes sense. And that is your last step to modeling. So please see me for some more examples or some more help. Your book has a lot of great examples as well. And best of luck to you. Thanks.